So, welcome to this first episode of the Soulpreneur Peer Chat with me, Jessica, and Martin. We are very excited to open up this space and container. And our first episode is all about what is actually a soulpreneur and what is like the journey of the soulpreneur. And so, my question to you, Martin, what does it mean for you to be a soulpreneur?
Well, first of all, hello everybody, and thanks for the intro, Jessica. Happy to get started on this with you today. And yeah, being a soulpreneur, what does it mean? How much time do we have?
Much time as you need.
I know. I think probably ever since I've become an entrepreneur or did things like an entrepreneur in the past, there was something coming from deep inside of me, and most of the times I've never realized it. It's just like being on autopilot maybe, or depending where are you in life, or you want to try something out. But there is something that drives you, right? And I think now I'm in a point in my life where I'm a very different point than when I got started. Maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, I started doing entrepreneurial things. And yeah, so looking back, I can see now probably more or understand more why I did those things. And at some point, you always have like, some purpose you want to fulfill, or maybe you get into because you work together with other people. Yeah, so there's always different motivations. And so what I want to say, it's a journey, right? And only now working with you, Jessica, I've started, or actually we started establishing or came up with this term of being a soulpreneur. And I think what changed is what happened to me recently. I can talk about that later in my life. And what changed is just this consciousness about really going inside and asking yourself questions like that. And what do I really want in life? What do I want to do next as an entrepreneur? So I think, I don't know if that's answering for the beginning a bit, but what it is for me is that something that is really asking questions to himself about why he's doing something or why he wants to do something, and what kind of impact you want to have as an entrepreneur, and how does this like relate to your inner life, to your soul, to why you may be here also in this world.
That's beautiful. So basically, it's about going inward more and creating from there, like really connected deeply with you, what's inside. Like with this drive, but maybe then even going deeper, like what is actually like really you use the word impact, like the impact you want to generate not only for yourself, but maybe also for the outside world.
Yes,
Does that
definitely. I
sound?
think, yeah, I think it's like this being conscious about going inward, really trying to understand yourself. Who am I? Um, why did I do all these things in the past? Why do I keep doing the things, or why do I still want to be an entrepreneur? And what do I want to change maybe in the future, do differently, doing it with more intent, and doing things that I really love doing, and I see a reason for it that makes me happy. Yeah, and that gives me, I don't know, something back by giving something also. Yeah.
Is it like a deeper purpose? Can you
Definitely,
use the
yes.
term? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't have the perfect answer what's my purpose. What I did is I started working on really trying to find what is a purpose, what is it, going into like a purpose coaching day, or starting to work out on my ikigai or ichigai, I don't know, the Japanese, concept of what's the reason for being or doing things. So it's been it's been work on myself, going inwards, asking myself questions. And of course, I found some answers. And then once you start finding answers, it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's true. That's really something I want to do. For me now, it's one thing is about coaching other leaders or being a leadership coach. So trying to help others, have more clarity, more well-being, and performing better in their role. So I think that's one of the answers I found for myself. And yeah, I think in the end, it's a lot of work you have to do within yourself. So what are your values? Really trying to understand what are values, how do I live up to them? Write them down, start keeping a journal. Then also trying to, starting to really understand maybe from the past or where you're at now, what are your strengths? Um, so what am I good at? What gives me, this feeling of fulfillment when I do stuff? What do I really enjoy doing? So just writing all these things down. So Ichigai is actually a good tool to do that. And then look at it and think of, okay, now what? What do I do with that? Especially if you are an entrepreneur, which you can be by yourself, or you can build a business with others. You can go into an existing business. And so there's always this question, probably, what is entrepreneurship? And who am I? And how do I bring this together? And what's the impact I want to have? What kind of impact? Economics, of course, money wise, impact on the environment, on people, on building stuff, and what to expect in return. And those are some really fundamental questions, and they just take time, to work on them. I don't know, maybe you can tell me a bit yourself what your experience has been so far with these questions.
Yeah, I think it's very similar. Like it's really unraveling more of who you truly are and what I truly value, but also what I truly desire from within me. Like, as you said, what are my values? What is it that I enjoy doing? And
Mm-hmm.
not something I see on the outside, because even though I always had this drive to be an entrepreneur and had many entrepreneurship ventures, I feel like most of them was like also focused from the outside, like, oh, this is a good idea. This makes sense from a market perspective. But all of that, like at some point, it just didn't light me up anymore. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel the connection to it. And I think it was really like always done this deep inner work, like personal growth work, therapy, coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And just like with this, unraveling more of who I truly am, because so much was conditioned and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even see that or feel that so much. And it's still like it's an ongoing journey. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, that was a question I had for you as well. Is it
Yeah.
a comfortable journey?
Uh, no, because as they say, or we say, or as you can read, growth happens outside of the comfort zone. And you know, I think being an entrepreneur, you always on some borders, or you always go outside of the comfort zone. So that's a natural thing. But over time, your learning curve is, coming to a point where maybe you look at different points of, what you can learn, or different things of, a different type of growth. And what happened to me, for instance, I left my last startup as a co-founder because I was burned out and depressed. So I was in a crisis. And so I think that this was like a turning point. And what it gave me, I think it just gave me space and time to, to digest that, and to really start working on my inner self. So I think that was a good thing that I had this time now. And I was able to do that because a lot of times, as I said at the beginning, you're autopilot, or you're just, in this mouse wheel, and you don't have this time to reflect. And so I had this transition phase coming in due to my crisis, health wise. And maybe other people have a different situation. They sell a business, they exit the business, or they leave a business for whatever reason, they go traveling, you know and or maybe it's just maybe a bit the age, or you have family, whatever, you start looking at things differently. And what happened to me, I started inwards because I had to heal some things and understand, how do I really work, why did this happen to me. And at some point this was really going in again towards looking forward and entrepreneurship. And what I realized is, if the next thing I want to do, I want to really do something I truly love doing, and that also is something that is good for me, and that gives me a good life, good energy. Yeah. So what was your question again? Sorry.
If it was comfortable, but no, it's
No,
an
you're
outcome.
struggling even answering. It's not. It's not. I'm sorry. No, because there's so many things. And so you learn about mental health. Well, I did. You learn about psychology, even though you've known before, but once you start realizing yourself, how your brain really works, your emotions, how everything is connected in the body, why do you have like physical issues? And going from thoughts or psychology, emotions, your body, you end up at your really inner self, and you can call that your soul, or whatever you want to call it. And what I realized is, I want to really be true to myself in what I do next. And being true to yourself, you really have to understand your true inner self and who you really are. How do I work? What is good for me? And where can I be also best then? Because I think when it's coming from your heart, your soul, from your inner self, you have pure clarity once you connect to that. And this is a really good energy to go forward. And what's hard about that is just arriving at that point, starting to realizing things like that. And it's also not comfortable, because you realize a bit maybe that you are the way you are, and that there will always be things you have to manage, your personality. Or for me personally, I'm a highly sensitive people, so that's I don't know, it's a thing with your brain, put it that way. So you function a bit differently. Yeah, so you start to realize a bit also things that are not comfortable, and you're trying to make those things, turn them into like superpowers, in a way, to use them. So also realizing that maybe what you're doing next, or that you need to do things differently, is because the way you work is different maybe to others. And that's also a bit hard to accept maybe sometimes, because then you could end up again in a burnout or whatever, or not being happy. So I think really understanding what makes you happy also with what you're doing next, and what's best for you, that's also hard work. Yeah.
Yeah. I think especially as when you identify as a highly sensitive person, you're taking much more than other people maybe
Mm-hmm.
do, and especially if you're not aware of it, because
Yeah.
I identify as this as well. And I just had like another thing that came up for me, which like shaped my life so much, because I wanted to fit in so badly with how the world works, especially when it comes to work and how to build a
Mm-hmm.
business. So I wanted to fit into this box and making all these strategies. Like I knew I learned work and like how to work. And it was like, but it burned me out like twice. And now
Mm-hmm.
I've like seen it, but it's coming up again. And I think there's always a deeper layer to it. And like really like also that's why I think it's uncomfortable, because there's pain behind it when you realize certain things, and like also letting this go and realizing this is not your true self. But when you can like really feel and see the truth for what it is, I think then you're getting more towards your true self, and then you can work from there and actually
Mm-hmm.
create more energy and like a more sustainable way of how to work and live and to create a business. because I always think the business is an extension of you. Like it doesn't need to be exactly you, but it always comes as part of you if you work as a soulpreneur. I think that's how I see it. And I think especially as we received so much conditioning growing up and everything, it's important to first go through these pain points. And then again, when we grow a business, so many more things come up. It's always again getting out of the comfort zone, but they're staying connected to yourself, to your true self, and not get distracted by the noise or what you maybe sense from other things, and like getting into the hustle, but being able to, as you always, like Martin always reminds me of, like staying calm and then going with clarity. I think this is also like key when you connect more to yourself, that this is then deeper present without actually so much having to make this state work, but it's just a natural state that comes with it. And sometimes you might fall out a bit, but it's easier to find your center again.
Yeah, I think you
This
mentioned
resonant.
this outside versus inside. I also talked about it. Just maybe to give an example or how we're wired. We like one thing is that we always compare to maybe others. You know, we have role models or we live in bubbles. We read on social media what other entrepreneurs are doing, and everybody's successful. You know, there's all this pressure in society, or you know, you said learning about work. It's also learning about being an entrepreneur, and so I thought something you always mention when we talk about this is this unlearning. So maybe you
Yeah.
can tell me a bit, what have you been unlearning then, maybe concrete in detail?
Yeah, so I always use the word unlearning, unraveling, and becoming in order to get to your core. I think I can use a current example. Sensitivity. Like for me, it was very early on clear that I'm very a hypersensitive person, a sensitive person, but I labeled it as something bad because my teachers told me I have the fear of like writing tests and stuff. But it wasn't my fear of writing a test. It was just because I sensed it from all the other people. And so I made it around me that I have like this fear that I'm actually not worthy to taking bigger tests because then I fail because I have this inside of me. And so with this, I paid even more like, oh, I want to do more, I want to be better because I don't want to have this. So like my whole life was then really this high achieving, like having good results, like showing them that I'm not that, and actually like fighting against my sensitivity, which isn't then that I can't take tests, but it wasn't like valued at school, because at school it was valued to sit down and taking the tests. But now for me, it's really then I feel this part deeply inside of me that it comes up and it's like, oh, you're not good enough to do certain things and others can do it better, but not you. But it's all like then connected to this older pattern, to this specific situation at school. And you might feel it first, oh, like this sense of like, oh, I'm not good enough. But what is it actually like? Where does it come from? And to what is it all connected? Because it's all connected to different things. And so you're like, I love the example of the onion, you know, you take a layer by
Yeah.
layer and you
Yeah.
get like to the core of it. And so this is something that came up for me again, like last week. And then instead of like going into action and like work against it, it's just like to see and then feel the truth of it, because most of us, we have never learned to feel. And when we don't feel, we store it inside of us. And based on this, we just create like reactions instead of aligned actions with our core actions. Core, yeah. Does this make sense?
No, that makes total sense. I think the word feel or feelings or emotions, that's also something that we or a lot of people relate to soul. Now we both talked about sensitivity, and maybe something else I read once about entrepreneurship is that every time you're founding a company or you're building something, it's because you want to give an answer to something inside of you or because something drives you. One example could be maybe from your childhood, maybe from the way you were raised with your parents and educated, was that you had maybe the feeling it was never enough, right? and then you want to prove the world, right?
Mhm.
And you're super driven because of that. So that's another example. As you said, you have to realize your high sensitivity, and you have to cope with that, learn how to be with that. And maybe it's also something you maybe it could have been, or maybe also for me, that I push myself so hard to prove or to show that I'm tough, to
Mhm.
overcome these things. So I think there's so many different things for each one of us out there, that maybe once we start working on going inwards, we realize maybe what has been driving me. So
Yeah.
it's easy to build companies, you know, uh, and so it's a lot about psychology and understanding, yeah, how you
Yeah.
work, how your brain works. Yeah.
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 I also think that, yeah, like as we both had our experience with burnout, which we will talk about more deeply probably in another episode. But I
hmm
truly believe it's like when you're connected to your core,
hmm
and as I said before, like what we talked about, you're like more sustainable and how you're working and living because you sense what is right for
hmm
you because everyone needs something different. There's no right solution for everyone or like
hmm
one solution fits all. Also, like how to build a business, even though there is this certain strategy, this strategy might not work for your business because you work differently. And so I
hmm
think it's really to uncover that. And with this, I think you're actually not being able to burn out because you always stay connected to yourself and to your core. And with this, you only can
hmm
create more impact, but also energy, and like not only energy from your impact, like economic wise, but also that you feel good, you can do more things, you can hold more things. I think
Yeah.
this,
hmm
yeah,
hmm Yeah, I think what comes to my mind here is a bit about having this balance. And I think, entrepreneurship can be a really roller coaster and it takes a lot of energy. And sooner or later, it will burn you out in a way or suck a lot of energy out of you. And you will have phases where you're not performing as well as maybe before. It will just happen. And it just depends how you cope with that, how resilient you are, whatever. So you don't have to end up like me, being, mentally um, sick and tired and depressed. No, I mean, it's just like, yeah, this balance in a way that going forward, things are more in balance. You still have to, work hard and push, but the way you do it or where you're taking the energy from, that's what I want to say, is more in line with really your true self, your beliefs, I think really your values are very important. And this comes out then in everything you do. Like you said, strategy. It's also how you lead people if you were, building teams, how you communicate, how you work with co-founders if you have co-founders. Maybe you will not, I don't know, agree to some things because you go inwards and ask yourself and say, no, I don't want to lead that way. No, I don't want to take that decision because of that. And that's really strong, right? If you start doing that. But in the long terms, if you act like that, you keep true to yourself, so it's not sucking you out. Because even, of course, you have to do compromises and so on. That's a normal thing. But for some really core things that, like you really, I don't know, your basic values or most important values, if you act in line of them, you're fine. If you start to really, acting in a different way, or I think then over time it will drain you, or you will, yeah, it will not make you really happy. And I think going forward, being a soulpreneur, or have this aspiration, you just don't want to do that anymore. And I think, you really want to try at least, to do something in the future where you say, hey, that makes me happy. I really love doing that. I really stick to my values. I stay healthy and so on, so
yeah.
lots of positive things in there.
I think a keyword that comes to mind, which we haven't used when it comes to the soulpreneur, is
Mm-hmm.
being in the flow. like being in the flow, maybe with your soul, because I think that's when you like burn out and you actually work against your natural instincts.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are different reasons, but I think this is like one reason, especially as an entrepreneur, as you're driving, is like behind maybe conditioning that isn't actually true to you. But
Mm-hmm.
when you know like what's true to you, like you're getting more into the flow, and that's why it's also uncomfortable, because you need to communicate certain things which might seem a little strange to other people and isn't like the norm what other people do, but you communicate it from inside out, and it's also like something that's need to be
Yeah.
learned. And with communication comes this leadership and standing in your own truth,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then coming into this flow state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, flow state. And I think coming back to your word feeling, you maybe start communicating or actually saying the word, I feel like this is, good, or this may, or I feel like this is not good, or I feel, you also start saying it, opening up really in the way you communicate. Maybe in a discussion with, I don't know, a co-founder or even a client, and you say, I feel this is not good for me, or this is not in line with my values, or yeah. So I think it's not just in your head maybe, or
Yeah,
or here in your body when you feel it. You also start acting, or start saying things like that, making decisions like that.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
I'm curious to hear how this was for you, because now that you just said it, like I use it a lot now. I feel, I think I make very distinguished when I use these words. And
Mm-hmm.
even as you said it now, it triggered me a little bit, because I always, even though like my whole work is around
Yeah.
helping people to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to feel in general,
Mm-hmm.
but this was like always a huge thing for me. I hated it, like when people were hysteric and like just like and like act like pull
Mm-hmm.
yourself together. Like I got this like when
Mm-hmm.
growing up. So I'm curious to hear how it is for you to say this, like I feel this way, or this should be like, how was this journey for you?
Mm-hmm. 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 Honestly, this is really hard. Because okay, now I use the example of really saying I feel like, but there's lots of other ways of expressing your feelings, or saying something that is in line with what you feel. And I think it's something I am still learning a lot. So so that I don't say what I think should be said. We're so, I don't know, through education, maybe a bit of imposter syndrome now, or an inner voice that's speaking out loud. And then you say something that doesn't feel right. It's more maybe also that when you say something, you feel it's like, but you said it, right? And I think when you say something that's really coming from your inner self, you feel it, that the way you say it, and I think it's also something you have to learn to get used to that, because then at that moment you open up so much more, because some of your shields,
Mm-hmm.
are coming down. You're some guards, some things that maybe people expected you to say. And but what's happening when you do it, and even if the response is against you, or not in line what you said, it doesn't matter, because it's like taking that risk, that leap of faith in just that moment. And just doing that will give you, strength, and build your self awareness, and self-esteem.
Yeah.
So I think it's good, and you have to practice not to go onto like all these autopilots that are here than you used to in situations. And what it is in the end, it's just showing vulnerability, you know, and it's actually leadership at its purest form, and it builds trust, honestly, because the other side, or whatever, who is there, who you're speaking to, we always sense if you're really saying something, yeah, that you feel that's coming
Yeah.
from your inner self. Yeah, so it's just learning and doing that more, and then reflecting on it and see how you grow with it. Yeah.
I think, and I use this word I think now very specifically, it's also like, again, when you have a peer group where you
Mm-hmm.
can like practice this and like,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm so grateful for this connection and peer exchange with you, because there was this situation a couple of weeks ago where we
Mm-hmm.
decided something and I could feel it inside of me, oh, like it triggered something.
Yep.
But I didn't say it in that moment. But then like a day after I made you a voice message telling you like, oh, like this really triggered me. And just being able to be vulnerable and share it, and sharing also
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't think actually this is so, I don't think it's my intuition telling me no, but it's actually a part that is reacting. And so having
Mm-hmm.
this peer exchange where just everything is welcome, like a Hosen runter, pants down approach, just being vulnerable, it's just so like I'm so grateful for that, because this helped
Mm-hmm.
me immediately to shift it and
Mm-hmm.
to release it, kind, because otherwise I would have been stuck inside of me and I would have might contemplate about it or made
Mm-hmm.
then a reactive decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so being in a peer exchange group just helps to bringing more awareness to yourself, and with this to more awareness to your core. Or this is how I
Mm-hmm.
found it very much to be helpful, because in this moment I can say I felt that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's really like you feel that's your truth, your intuition, your gut feeling, but sometimes it's also that a
Mm-hmm.
part of you is activated or that you're triggered. And then you
Yeah.
have this peer group in exchange, you just can really build a relationship with yourself deeper while building a relationship with other people who can see you
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
what you are.
Yes, I think that's a very good thing, and it's also a natural thing that entrepreneurs, they have peer groups or talk to peers and do exchanges. And it's interesting. I do it a lot, and it's interesting to see what happens in these conversations. And I think they always happen in a bit on a different level, or you can always talk about business ideas and operations and stuff, and always learn from each other. It's great. And there's moments where you talk about, I don't know, deeper things, or very personal experiences, and it just helps with your inner growth. And it just, I think the basis here is like in every company itself, it's trust. And yeah, I think that's also a bit the motivation behind the Soulpreneur Mastermind, which we will talk about also a lot, of course. But I mean, the concept itself, now motivation. But I think this is really a core element, is building this trust, having a place also. Also coming back to your questions, if you have to do this growth journey on your own, it can be really hard, because um, you just need people. I don't know, it's my experience. You just need people to talk to. Otherwise, you go a bit crazy, right? Because my
Yeah.
mind is already spinning all the time. I'm like hyper creative, always ideas. Um, so, and journaling can help, going on a walk, whatever, talking to your spouse. But especially having peer exchanges with other entrepreneurs can be really helpful, because peer means, yeah, you're somehow related through what you do, like you're in the same peer group in a way, some kind of same situation. So yeah, it's an encouragement for all of you out there. If you have like really good entrepreneurial friends or friends who can relate to it, and um, you can really speak openly, yeah, go further, do it more. It's really refreshing, and yeah, you can take a lot out of it.
Yeah.
As we do it, that's why, because we are doing this right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Like it's not only about your personal growth, but also like especially when it comes to your business, to have someone to
Yeah.
talk about it, also like the ideas or like businesses, or also if you have a difficult meeting or conversation you need to have with an employee. I think this is so crucial.
Mm.
But I think
Mhm.
what we really also want to bring in is the personal aspect, like yourself, because I think this gets lost a lot when you are a leader, to
Mhm.
actually make yourself a priority, because you maybe prioritize your business, you prioritize your family,
Mhm.
but just having this space where everything of you is welcome. And I think for me, this was also a growth journey to open myself up
Mhm.
and speak and express myself, because I never did that before. Like, I remember that I always hid everything inside of me because, yeah, I thought I'm crazy to sharing this. So I think
Mhm.
this was like it's really important for me to build like peer relationships and being able to express myself and also say, yeah, what
Mhm.
I feel and think. And yeah, that's
Mhm.
also like something I had to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we're talking about business now in this relation, it has such a big impact on your business, especially if you're the founder or or the CEO, or or you're doing it by yourself, so as a solopreneur. Yeah, you're there every day. You're there 100% who you are, and you communicate every day, you take decisions every day, you think about next steps every day. And so it's always you. And so being you yourself, in the sum is so much easier than a lot of times maybe not being able to be yourself, that takes, it just will drain energy over time. Um, Yeah, and so connecting to other entrepreneurs and see how they handle that, or maybe someone who you think that's a really inspiring person, so authentic, you hear that often. Yeah, maybe ask them what's their secret, and then probably what they will say, I'm just myself. That's what I hear a lot of times. And so, yeah, the invitation here is a bit go on that journey to try to understand yourself. I think that's where
Yeah.
it starts.
I think this is also the start of the soulpreneur journey. Who am I?
Totally.
Because now, even when you said that, it's like, oh, who am I actually really? Like, yeah, there's like still so many facets to the discover, and
Mhm.
actually so much fun, because there comes so much more joy, love, compassion, energy behind it, the more you unravel more of you.
Mhm.
And this is like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's uncomfortable, but then it gets like even better, like better than you can even
Mhm.
imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's a good investment. You know, we talked about it before. When is maybe the best time to do it? I would say it's always good. You always have time to work on yourself, to take time out of your busy schedule. Um, it will pay back more than twice. It will pay back, for your whole life, working on yourself. And
Yeah.
there's different ways on doing that. And you can do it even with really small exercises. Like I can give you an example. It's from Zen Buddhism. So I'm not an expert. Don't worry. I'm not gonna.
Martin spent his last 20 years in the Buddhist.
No, no, not at all. But I just heard that in a television I don't know, interview or show. Someone, he's a monk, and he said, "Look, what we've learned through psychology, at least in the Western world, is that the saying goes, I think, therefore I am." So this is really coming from your brain. And what they say in Zen, correct me out there if I'm wrong, they say, I am, I am, therefore I think, so that you turn it around. And the exercise I do with my coachees when I go on a walk with them, I ask them to ask themselves the question, I am, and they should answer, with everything they come up with to say, I am. So I am a father. I am proud of my kids. I am a music fanatic, So just do this exercise, maybe with a friend, do it yourself, write it down. Everything you come up with that starts with I am. So what you realize then, oh, this is all me. This is purely me. I love music. I'm in this role. And it's not, I think I should be that way, or I think I should be good in this and that. I should be, you know. And so what I want to say, it's there's lots of different things you can do to go on that journey, and that's a bit what Jessica and me are here for, and why we're also offering this mastermind to take you along on what we're learning or what we've learned and the tools are already using to get you there a bit inside and
Mhm.
unlock these good things.
And I think it's also what you said in the beginning, as when um, maybe you've built a successful business, you're still in the business, but it doesn't feel aligned to it, like it doesn't bring you joy or energy. And maybe then comes the question, who am I really? What is truly important to me in my life? But also when you fail the business, then and like thoughts and beliefs might come up, or like you exit a business, you sell it. And I think that's like when also the entrepreneurship part comes in again. I think then this is always an invitation to go deeper, but not only then, as you said, it's always here. But I think this is then really, instead of rushing into the next thing, maybe you can take some space for yourself.
Yeah. Yes, taking mind space and time for yourself, and either you have time like like for a year, you go traveling, or you just make time once a
Yeah.
week. You know, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the other questions in this context, we sometimes hear, I also saw before someone, an entrepreneur out there, and was the question, what do I really want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a question that comes up in, I don't know, almost everybody's life every now and then, and maybe
I hope so.
especially at, some point in your life. And whatever question it is that comes up with you, just go start trying to find answers and start that journey. It's worth it, and it's hard, and it's confusing, and it can be fun, of course. And yeah, maybe we can take it a step further. And then once you get at this point, let's say you and me, we have found this at some, as we say, we're still working on it, but to some degree, we say we are already doing what we feel like we want to do, that's coming from our soul. How does it feel like when you do that, Jessica?
It feels great. But also, when you just said all the words you said now, there's some points they always, not always, but it's just sometimes come up again, like this confusing part. Like, and I think it's always an invitation to go deeper again, but it just, I never felt like this much energy in my life. And I've worked actually a lot, especially this year, but it always felt so fulfilling. Like my business gave me back more energy. It was not only that I gave it energy, but it fed me as well. And so much joy and connection to myself, but also others. And it was always when I went more uncomfortable, as I said before, it wasn't easy or nice for me to speak up about my thoughts or my feelings, but to going and into these spaces. And that's why I met Martin, because I was willing to go there. And with this came even more joy and alignment with my core. And this is just incredible. And to not go this path alone is even, it's, I don't know, it makes it easier. Like even though, like when I hear Martin say so, it was like, oh yes, I feel that for me too. And it's so good that you know that someone is out there who is going through similar things, even though it might show up differently. It's just there, like this peer group really is like, makes it, I want to say easier. Is
Yeah,
it easier? Is it, yeah, like also fun? Like it brings the fun
yeah.
into the uncomfortable.
I think what you're saying is, sharing is caring in a way.
Yeah.
And I think what we're discovering and learning, sometimes they're similar and sometimes they're totally different
Yeah.
in a way, or, and this is normal, and still we can share it, and so this sharing part is important. Um, yeah, we can even create stuff together, because that's also maybe something interesting, that if you're aligned with, or if you can really say what you want and not want, it's so refreshing. It's easier to build businesses for yourself or together with others, or in partnerships, like, or collaboration as we do. It makes things easier, I think. And that's also something that I'm learning, or I've learned. Yeah, I'm so eager to hear lots of stories out there from other entrepreneurs or soulpreneurs or people on that journey. Yeah, because we can always learn from each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think, is there something else you want to share today, especially when it comes? Actually, there's so much more to share,
I know, I
obviously.
know.
But
You have to give people a break, at some point.
yeah,
I didn't check
and
the watch, but yeah.
yeah, and maybe send you on the way for this week, because we will be back next week.
Hmm.
Can send you away, as we said before, like journaling or asking ourselves question
Hmm.
helps us to unravel more of us, like who am I really? And
Hmm.
so we have like 2 questions for you to take away this week, and we're always welcoming reach out to us personally, but also drop in the comments below. Let us know if there's something you would like to hear. It's all welcome. And so the question we send you away with this week is, are you fulfilled and happy with where you are at now? And what is truly important to you in life? You
Some
just
good
say,
questions. Yeah.
yes. I think we can take them away as well for ourselves again.
Yeah, I
It's
think it's
never,
something you can look at all the time.
yeah.
And as you said, journaling, or I think in general, writing things down and have maybe your playbook for your life yourself, having those things somewhere, coming back to them. I think that helps. Yeah, so maybe write those questions down. We will put them in the show notes. And as soon as you're ready or have a moment, go into them and start working on them. Yeah, it will be worth it and fun, probably.
Yes, at one point.
Cool.
So thank you so much for your time. Let us know if you have any questions, and see you next week.
Yes, thank you guys. Take care. And thank you, Jessica. Speak soon. Bye bye.
Bye.